Welcome to another car review video on the channel. Today I'm driving a 2007 Porsche Cayman. So in this video we're looking at what is a good entry-level modern Porsche. So what Porsche should you buy if you hadn't had a Porsche before, you're looking at getting one and you wanted to get a good deal, good price and also a good specification. Also, what might be on your list for this car is that you want a car that you can use as a good daily as well. So maybe it's not just something that you need for a sort of high days and holidays car. It's something that you want to be able to use every day and have a good time with at the weekend. I've borrowed this car from Quorn Sports and Classics, who are based in Quorn near Loughborough. They are specialists in classic Porsches. So the team that work there are trained Porsche mechanics or Porsche technicians, and they know pretty much everything there is to know about all generations of Porsche. They also deal and they'll service any type of car as well. The 987 Cayman is based on the 987 Boxster, but with obviously the extra structural rigidity that you get from a roof, which makes it an even better driver's car. The 987 Boxster and Cayman were a significant redevelopment from the 986, the original Boxster, which is sort of widely acknowledged as the car that saved Porsche because it was wildly successful. So for the 987, the styling was a little bit more crisper and the interior was a big improvement with more modern materials and a more modern feel to it, which is what you've got here in this Cayman. It was designed by Pinky Lay, who started out at Ford and then moved to BMW and worked on the E36 3 Series. Then he moved to Porsche and worked on the 996 911 before eventually working on the 987 Cayman. So, all Caymans were made in Finland by a company called Valmat, which is a Porsche partner. I found that out when I had this generation of Boxster. I looked at the VIN number and it told me that it was made in Finland by Valmat, which is quite surprising to some people. They expect them to be made in Stuttgart by Germans, but no, they're made in Finland. The newer generations have since moved back to Germany though, and they're actually made in a German factory. So one of the great things about the Cayman's drivability, or one of the things that causes the Cayman's drivability, if you like, is the mid-engine configuration. You really can feel it in the corners. It feels really precise and beautifully balanced. Part of that is because it's got a 47% front, 53% rear weight distribution, and you can really feel that when you press on. So when the Cayman came out, there was a sort of an agreement within Porsche that they kept the engine power below 300 brake horsepower to keep it a respectable distance, as they called it, from the Porsche 911. But there were lots of rumours that some of the prototypes were quicker around the Nürburgring at the time. When this base Cayman came out, it was around £36,000, which was about £8,000 cheaper than the S model. This Cayman model has 245 brake horsepower and it does 160 miles an hour top speed. It's got a 5.9 0 to 60 time as well. So the first Caymans are November 05, 55 plate. This is an 07 car, so a couple of years later. So when it was launched in 2005, only the S model was available with the 3.4 litre engine. It wasn't until 2006 came along when they came out with the base model Cayman, which is the 2.7 litre engine like this model. Unusually for most motoring manufacturers, Porsche were doing a kind of a top-down approach with the Cayman, where they came out with the S model before they came out with the base model. Also unusually was that the sort of fixed head coupe, which is the Cayman, was more expensive than the convertible, which is normally the other way around with most manufacturers. It was £5,000 more expensive than the Boxster, and they've only just recently, with the latest iteration, changed that philosophy round, whereas now again the Boxster is the slightly more expensive model. So the Cayman was available with a manual 5-speed gearbox for the Cayman and a 6-speed manual gearbox for the Cayman S. Also was available was Tiptronic. which wasn't as good as the PDK system, which didn't come along until the Gen 2 cars in 2009. This 987 generation Cayman is the last Cayman generation to be fitted with hydraulic steering. So some people might be thinking, well, why aren't you just driving an S? But for this particular video, as I said, we're looking at an entry-level Porsche. And even though sometimes people are a little bit negative about the 2.7, it's a very good entry point for the Porsche range. It's very, very nice to drive. It's very easy to drive slowly and in traffic and everything else. All the steering and the pedals and gearbox are all very precise. But then it's still got enough grunt to sort of get you going when you're out on the country lanes. Something else, as I mentioned, the steering is very precise because it's a hydraulic system. The gearbox has got a very precise kind of rifle bolt type feel to it. It feels really Germanic, and the rest of the car feels really well put together. I had one of these, I had a Boxster version of the 987 when it was new. And that felt tight as a drum then, but that was partly because it was a brand new car. But this is 13 years old, and it still feels really sharp and really precise. So the fixed roof over the Boxster adds 5 kilos to the weight of the car, but it certainly makes up for that in the rigidity that you can feel through the chassis. It makes it a much more engaging and much more stiffer feeling driving car. The roof adds to the aerodynamics, and also there's an electric spoiler that comes up at the back at 75 miles an hour, mainly to keep the back quite planted, similar possibly to the problems that they had with the Audi TT when they put a spoiler back on that back in the early 2000s. To differentiate the appearance of the Cayman from the Boxster, you've got different bumpers, front and back, which give it its own appearance. It's also got integrated fog lights and sort of bigger scoops as well, which probably owe themselves to the Cayenne that came out at the time, which made those kind of bigger scoops on a Porsche a little bit more acceptable. When compared with most modern generations of Porsche with their sort of glitzy LED lights and Porsche stickers, this generation seems to have sort of an understated elegance about it that is quite reminiscent of the Porsche 356. Porsche Caymans didn't really receive a huge amount of options with most buyers, so really overly spec'd or highly spec'd cars are quite rare because the Porsche optioning is notoriously a really expensive thing to do. So desirable options on a Cayman are heated seats, cruise control, air conditioning and park assist, which fortunately this car has all of those. Something else that I would really want for my sort of starter Cayman that this Cayman has as well is the manual gearbox. As I said, I wouldn't want the Tiptronic personally because I want this, as well as being a car that I can use every day, I want it to be a great driver's car. And everybody goes on and on and on about manuals at the moment, how they miss manuals and that kind of thing. And people have been moaning about the 718 4-cylinder engine, so this is sort of the perfect antidote to all of those problems with some of the latest Boxsters. You've got your manual gearbox and you've got your flat six. This particular Cayman is finished in Guards Red, and it also has black alloys on it as well, which are a little bit different, but I think it makes it look really striking, and it makes a change from sort of just a silver or black Cayman. So if you wanted to get an early Cayman to try and get around the tax change in March 06, chances are you'd probably have to go for a Cayman S because, as I mentioned before, the Cayman S was the one that was launched first. But if you want a regular Cayman, it's going to be after March 06, so there is going to be a little bit of a difference in the tax. You're going to go from sort of 215 to 405, but there will be still advantages in going for the base model Cayman because you'll probably find that the running costs will be slightly cheaper and the insurance will be slightly cheaper as well. So what should you look for if you're buying a Cayman? So there are some horror stories that you have to look out for with them. And that's probably a good reason why it's a good idea to buy a car like this. This car has quite a number of things that have been sorted out by Quorn Sports and Classics, so you can really buy it with confidence. It's got a 3,000 mile 3-month warranty on it as well. Coolant pipes can be an issue in the front. This car's had those done and changed because there can be corrosion issues around there which can be expensive to fix. It's also had a full service as well, and it's had new discs and pads. It's had a brake fluid change and spark plugs. The crossover radiator pipes have been done as well, and also the exhaust clamps, which do rust away and can be a bit of an issue. As with any used car that you'd buy, you want to see a good amount of paperwork for it, hopefully dating all the way back to when it was new. But certainly it's a good idea to, with this kind of car, to see that the servicing has been done right. These are supposed to be done every 2 years, so it's good to check that on the paperwork. So don't be put off by, you know, slightly higher mileage. This car's got 86,000 miles on it, but cars like this can suffer more if they sit around and they're not used. So a car that's been used and well maintained and that has good paperwork with it is a better bet than some, you know, some garage queen that maybe only has 10,000 miles on it or something like that, but you know, or could even have a patchy service history. But on the surface it looks okay, but you know, these jobs that I've mentioned haven't been done. It might be a good idea to avoid cars that have possibly been track day cars. Can be difficult to spot, but you know, normally they say things like look on the underside of the car. If you can see scrapes and gashes where maybe they've been off into the gravel trap or something like that, that's possibly a good thing to look for, because you know, sometimes the engines could have been over revved and it's difficult for you to diagnose that yourself without having the specialist equipment. So yeah, that's something to look out for. So to me, the car feels plenty fast enough. Certainly if it's going to be your first Porsche or your first performance car. It feels very modern considering that it's a 13-year-old car. And as I said before, it still looks brand new in here. The styling and the detailing and the finish of the materials has really held up well in those years since it was new. So I think the Cayman 2.7 Cayman, base Cayman, is a great starter car for anybody who wants to get into the Porsche range. At the moment the prices are, you know, really reasonable, and you can still get a car that's really well sorted like this one. So I definitely recommend buying from a specialist like Quorn Sports and Classic, because there's not massive horror stories, but there are things that are difficult to diagnose yourself. And really, you know, you want this to be ready to go from day one. You don't want to have to worry about it. The reason that you're buying a modern Porsche is because you want to be able to use it without having to worry about it. So I definitely recommend a Porsche Cayman. Thanks again to Quorn Sports and Classics for lending me this car for the video. Check them out. I've put their website details and their Instagram details in the description, and they've also popped up on the video, as you've probably noticed. This is kind of the first in the sort of car review that doesn't have a specific theme like future classics. This is just kind of interesting cars. This is what I'm hoping to do with the channel, is broaden it out just from the Lotus and bring you some more details of a range of interesting cars. More videos to come, so keep watching and keep subscribing. Hit the like button if you liked the video. Hopefully you did, and thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.